Okay, folks, it is Tuesday, June 14th, Flag Day. And we are in the council chambers of the city of Platteville. It is 4:33, and I'm calling to order this special work session of the council. And are you taking Nicola? Would you please?
Pinch hitting for Candace tonight.
Yes, the roll.
Kathy Kopp,
Here.
Jason Otts,
Here.
Lynn Parrott,
Here.
Todd Casper, absent, Bob Dawes,
Here.
Ken Killian,
Here.
Eileen Nichols.
Here. Okay, and we have only one order of business on this work agenda, and so Jim, our superintendent of schools, we welcome you to the podium. And you should be aware that Jody is recording this, right?
Not live streaming. But
Oh, we're
recording.
recording but not live streaming.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so we wanted to give, Jim and I obviously have been talking back and forth kind of about an opportunity for him to come in front of the council to give an update, not only about the school district, but then also kind of in timing, talking about the referendum that they have ongoing. So this day worked as an opportunity for Jim to come and present in front of everybody. So I'm going to let him take it away and provide any information, and can go back and forth. So I think Jim said at any point in time, if you guys have questions, please feel free to ask Jim, or we can obviously write them down and kind of come back to them. But definitely want to have kind of an open dialogue here about any questions or concerns that you have, obviously about the referendum, but then outside of that, we can also talk about that as well. So Jim, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thank you. And thanks to the council for allowing the district to speak and have this interactive process. From the beginning, when a school district wants to present and go to a referendum vote, one of our biggest challenges is to disseminate accurate information. So everybody, our goal is to have everybody that can vote, vote, but also vote and know what they're voting for. That's our challenge. So thank you for giving this opportunity. What you have in front of you is a packet of information, and I can just go through at a high level with some of that, but if there's a question that arises, please ask that of me. I can't guarantee you that I will know every answer, but that will help me out tremendously, because then I take that back to our team and we understand, ooh, there's a question out there that we need to be better prepared for as we go forward. So I believe the first page in your packet is Facility Improvement Plan Update. This is a document that will be distributed tomorrow electronically to all of our families. It will also be sent out our social media channels. It will be shared with the press. And this is something that we're trying to organize it so around the 15th of each month, this gives a nice succinct update of the progress and where we're at. So it might be best to go through a general timeline of, in the November election is when we hope to have a referendum vote in which we will consider facility improvements for our school district. In our, I believe it's August 10th board meeting is when the school district has to settle on a resolution. The official wording that then gives the powers to be, the time, 70 days is the minimal time, to then put that on the ballot. Now, a couple of months ago, August 10th seemed like a long ways away. It's no longer a long ways away. But in July at our board meeting, we should have a real reduced scope and more detail as to what we want to propose, and also have, I hope to at that time, some sample language that we can look at in July, and then the board would have to approve that in August. So if you back up now to today, this is where we're at today. Last week, the board made significant changes to what we had initially proposed. So we initially proposed 4 campuses, each campus being addressed with needs, and the price tag that we put out there to begin with was $52 million. With that, we surveyed our community. Community came back with data, with good information for us, And one of those items was with 52, you must reduce it. So at last Wednesday's board meeting, they reduced the price tag down to 36 million as it stands right now. This update represents with the maps, the 4 different places, and then the columns represents, here are the main targets that we're going to try to address. The big dollar item that was removed for this vote would have been that 2-station gymnasium to add on to the high school. So if we back up, that original $52 million price tag, that was provided by our architect partner, PRA. They used similar projects that they were working on in the state, but that was back in October, November of 21. Since then, we have partnered with Myron Construction for the general build, and then point of beginnings would be the activities complex general contractor. They have been able to give us more precise numbers. So with that, we now have those projects. And to get back to my point before I went sideways on you, I apologize. The main difference between what we originally proposed in that survey and what we are proposing now is that 2-station gymnasium. That will be in a future phase. So in the first phase, most of the projects remain. The second phase would be that 2-station gymnasium. And then right now, we're considering how do we improve more so our career and technical education facilities. The second document that will be distributed tomorrow is a page with frequently asked questions. So that'll be sent out and will also be available on our webpage for a good resource for everyone. And a lot of these frequently asked questions, they come from experienced people. So Myron Construction, one of our partners, they say here are some common frequently asked questions that people need to know going into vote. But also, we are responding to what the survey told us. Case in point is that we heard many times during the survey that the Platteville School District has a declining enrollment. And we just do not. If you compare, I'm guessing, but if you go back 25 years, there were many more students. But over the past 10 years, we're inching up. So I can't say, we're busting at the seams with students. We're holding steady and increasing slightly, certainly not declining. So that's one of those informational pieces that we need to do a really good job of strongly communicating that out. The next document is a series of slides, and these are the slides that were presented Wednesday to the Board of Education. And the first page says Facility Improvement Plan. And then if you go to the right, that is the 31% decrease in our cost, in the proposed cost. And then a lot of the information is also included in those previous 2 documents. As far as each campus, what are the target builds, the target improvements. One thing is that I haven't addressed yet, but that would be the estimated maximum tax impact. And that is the second page down at the bottom. And what we can say is at 52 million, the mill rate was projected to increase by $1.55 per thousand. But at 36 million, it's projected to increase at 68 cents. That was another message that the survey told us. The $1.55 was too high. So we went back and adjusted to that. What we have to be very purposeful in educating is it's an estimated maximum tax impact, and it is based on certain assumptions. One assumption, and that's in the fine print, one assumption is that interest rates on bonds, project those to increase 4.5 to 5%. Now, once again, if you go back 6 months, that was a large cushion as far as how much interest rates would go. Right now, as it sits, our financial partner, Baird, they're saying, no, that's probably what it's going to be, is somewhere in that range. By the time, the difficult piece is vote in November. If it's a successful referendum, there's a couple of months of lining up a lot of the legal paperwork to then actually go to bond, actually sell the bonds. So that's why that's an assumption. Another assumption is that our property values will rise at a 2% rate. Recently, it's been a little bit more, but what we want to present is a number that we don't have to raise at all. And that's why that tax impact for 36 million is at that 68 cents. Okay.
Okay, the tax impact, for how many years would this go on for an individual house? Year? For how many years for the,
So it's a good question. And the bonds that will go out for sale, and I really can't speak specifically to that, that's not my wheelhouse at all, but it'll be 21 years. But with that, the way that school finance works, for example, with the school funding formula and the way they equalize aid, Platteville is at 50%. So when we have our Fund 10 levy, which is our biggest collection of funds, the state says in Platteville, your school district, the state will pay, this will come, but they'll pay historically about 50%, then the other 50% are from local property taxes. A good example to compare against would be the Wisconsin Dells School District. Their land value is so high that the state pays a much less rate and the local property taxes then pay more. So that's what that equalization aid. That happens on October the 15th when that is released. Then we can take and apply that to our numbers, and then we'll have a more accurate version. That's cutting it close to the vote in November, but it's not a perfect geared system. There's always a tooth missing, and we just have to do with what we can. But back to your point, our mill rate over the past 5 or 6 years has been on a steady decline. And we have existing debt from the 15-16 referendum. And even with that existing debt, the way that the formula is for school funding with equalization, we have tried to keep our mill rate steady, but it's in a decline right now. That is one of the reasons why, as a district, we believe this is a good opportunity to let's consider what we can do to try and keep that mill rate level. One of the things that the district did the last 2 years is there's a process in which we can defease some of our payments. So in essence, we were able to, this school year that we're in right now, this decision was made back in October, but we were able to levy $600,000 that we then put into an escrow account, and it waits until the end of the loan, then it cuts off that end of the loan, it pays that end. So we've shortened the length of that loan. There's also many different ways to structure and shelf out the payments of that loan over those 20 years. So I see where you're getting at, that will be there for 20 years, but there are so many other variables that we should be able to, as a district, keep this under 10. And that's really when school districts are responsible for their mill rate with the taxes. If a school district stays at 10 or close to it, below it, we are a successful partner with the other entities that are collecting those taxes. So with this, 36 million over 21 years, we still don't see that mill rate jumping up. And this is, and I'm getting a little too far ahead of myself, but this is the maximum tax input. Now, we don't know this for sure. We won't know it until October the 15th. But 2 years ago, our mill rate was 9.01, I think. Don't hold me to that. It was 9 something. This past year that we're in right now, it was 8.05. So there is a chance, once we get past October the 15th, that it won't be a straight 68 cents added on to. I mean, that's why these are assumptions.
So what would you equate the drop in the mill rate? Like what are you seeing the drop in
A lot of it is our district has steady, if not increasing enrollment. That's a big piece of school funding. The second would be our property values. The more that those property values rise, the more that it is shared out.
So this is 68 cents or $5.60 on a $100,000 house per month, in addition to what we currently pay.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want anybody to think it's $5 and then you don't pay what you used to pay. You pay what you used to pay and then you pay, right?
Correct.
Which- yeah.
And just some clarification too. So for my brain, I'm looking at like over the course of 21 years. So if we go based off the 200,000, 136 per year. So you take that 136 and you apply that every year for the 21 years. Okay. So that roughly would be like $2,800 over 21 years for a 200,000. Okay.
Yes, but.
At the max rate right now.
Yeah, but there's so many other variables. But if I'm a property owner, and I am, but that is how I would look at it. I would want to budget it with just, okay, what does it make sense to me for when it comes time to make my decision? There are the Wisconsin State Legislature has, as you know, a biennial budget. We're looking at year 2 of that budget. Year 1, they did not increase funding into schools very much. The rationale was use the ESSER funds, the federal monies, and then let's get through this year. And then when we get to next year, we'll make it right. Well, next year's coming. It's here. Hopefully they do, because there's a lot of schools, a lot of your smaller rural schools had to take that federal money and pay recurring costs with it. Platteville School District, we didn't have to. We did increase our staff, but in our mind, if there's a student need, we meet it. That's not negotiable. We did take a lot of our funds, and there's a chart, it's a circular chart that says the ESSER fund update. A couple of big purchases we did. We invested in some reading curriculum, some HVAC systems, which are coming in just gloriously today. But then also, we have a new windows we were able to install, and those are being installed in our middle school and high school right now. Your smaller districts did not have that luxury. They had recurring costs that they had to take those funds and use them for that. So they were really dependent on this second year of this biennial budget, increasing funding somehow, either put it into the formula or have just standalone items in which the state has that money.
Jim, with the legislature adjourned for the rest of the year, how can that happen?
They'll get busy in September. And so here's another element that I'm speaking of. I don't know because I've never done the position, but it's an election year. So when they closed up shop in March, it's election time. They're not working on law. And our advice was nothing's really going to happen until the election. So don't hold your breath. But I don't know. The last pieces, if you would like to, are the most current maps that we have. Maybe it'd be best if you just kind of look through that as opposed to me walking you through them, or would you like me to walk through each campus?
I'd walk them through it.
Okay. So we'll start with the Neil Wilkins Early Learning Center. And for the most part, the issue at Neil Wilkins was our kitchen and cafeteria and the lack of a multi-purpose space for those students. If you've been into Neil Wilkins, when you open that front door, you can pick your tray up right there. It's just not efficient. We can do better. And the kitchen space there is rather cramped. So the solution would be to take the existing gymnasium, put in a new kitchen facility, a new receiving, new cooler, new freezer, new serving, but also make that a flexible space, a multi-purpose space, so they can have all of the parents show up. I believe the last week of school they had a promotion ceremony for their 4K in there. All right, so that's what that space would become, multi-purpose, and then adding a gymnasium on the end. Key thing about the gymnasium is we have applied for, we started, more than a year ago, we have now submitted, it was due in January, a FEMA grant. And that was the city did provide a letter of support for that. And in short, this gymnasium needs to have qualities that make it storm safe. If so, what we've applied for could return $2 million towards the cost of that gym. That's significant. And with that gym as it is, it's probably $5 million, round in there. And I'm using rough numbers because we still are at that scrutiny stage. We haven't really gotten down to the precise stuff. But we'll find out July whether or not we have been awarded this FEMA money. If we have been awarded that money, that will then trigger another decision that we have to make. So what was once $36 million, $2 million of it could be in those FEMA funds, so now it's down to $34 million. What do you do there? Do you go back up to 36? Do you keep it at 34? So just decisions that we'll have to work through. I'm encouraged just because it seems like when they release this grant, it's an annual grant. When they release this grant, the funding was there. Now, we submitted it in December, if not January. Maybe it's not there. We'll find out. But either way, when you receive federal monies, the standard rule is then you have 24 months to apply those funds. If this is successful and we are able to build that, we would then have 24 months, which would fit the time frame that we would need.
Yeah, they are. It's in green right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just very difficult.
It
to
is
read,
on there.
so
It is,
I wanna change the
I
color.
didn't
yeah.
think you saw it either, but that's why I circled
It's
mine
in green.
I think it's a toner issue,
here.
but yes, thank you for that. If you were looking at it electronically, I think it'd just jump out at you.
Sure would. And I recognize
Says it
Western
right there.
Avenue, so I have no problem with that one.
Right above that line, it says something.
Well, it's hard to see,
Yes, it is hard
Right.
to see.
and I'd put a dark print up here in the upper right.
Thank you.
a question I have, on all these things that you go through, all these buildings, how many of these buildings
None. That's what was a lot of our HVAC money, was putting air conditioning and covering those spaces. There are in Neil Wilkins, the library does not have air. And then I believe there's 2 or 3 little classrooms. Critic would call them closets, but they're little classrooms where we do a lot of one-on-one instruction. And that shouldn't be that big of an item to rectify that. But all of the other buildings are aired. Yes, it's in our planning too. And maybe that's something, if we go back to, if we do get that $2 million towards Neil Wilkins, maybe we open the hood on Neil Wilkins again and say, okay, where can we apply this there? And maybe that's how we do that.
all rooms and buildings air conditioned?
I think we could, but we haven't discussed it on that angle yet. We haven't approached it with that as what we need be, because we have put a lot of air conditioning in the other buildings, so we've taken care of most of it. But that would be something, if the FEMA grant's successful, include that into it. Any other questions on Neil Wilkins' map? So the next page is just more of a inside footprint of Neil Wilkins. And you can see where the storage, the receiving, where the kitchen, the multipurpose, where that will lie out. Something that is represented on this are the canopies. And that is something that myself and our business manager have been keen to since we arrived. So when parents drop off at Neil Wilkins and pick up, if it's inclement weather outside, there's not a lot of room to stand and not get rained upon. Also during the winter, ice builds up in there. So that's what those canopies would be. And they would be branded for our school. And I think that would be a tremendous improvement. One of those, every day I see that and I see the benefit of it. Whereas it's not as glorious when you add HVAC. So on to Westview Elementary. Received a tremendous amount of attention in the 2015-2016 referendum. And so the thing that has rose as a priority since then is it's an elementary building. It was placed in a residential neighborhood, and therefore the street system just isn't there to handle the traffic at the beginning and the end of the day. So what we'd like to do is increase that, improve the flow of traffic through there. And this is a solution. I don't know if it is the solution. This, the price on this one is around $600,000 for all of that work. But we haven't really taken this and done a lot of, this is just a concept right now. I think our partners, if the referendum is successful and it passes, that's when our partners will have their real experts get into that and really study the flow and how they can improve that off of those city streets.
Jim, the new parent drive, is that gonna be a one-way thing? I mean, it's
Yes.
that basic concept that they come in one way, drop off, and go out.
Another
Yeah.
way. Where our buses currently drop off, that's all remaining the same. And that was I wasn't around for it, but that was an issue prior. And with the 2015, 2016, having that occur, I believe, was significant. And the bus company, they find that to be a very easy route for them to come in and then leave. A lot of visibility, not a lot of cars to mess with. Moving on to the Platteville Middle School. The big concern at the Platteville Middle School is our 7th and 8th grade hallway. So if you know where my office is, that entire hallway, it looks like a traditional high school hallway, which I think it was back in the day. There's only one set of bathrooms in that whole hallway, and we have over 250 people in that hallway. Needless to say, during passing times, it gets crowded. And that was when the middle school was first approached. That was unanimous. We need to add some toilet rooms in that hallway. And with that, that's the addition. And if you look at the more detailed architectural, the walls, you can see you have those toilet rooms, and these will be individual toilets. You're doing that addition, so just put classrooms around it. And then it's nice. It just wouldn't make sense to have just a little bit sticking out with just toilet rooms in it. One of the things that we've discovered as we investigate and we go visit other districts is how today's classrooms are really different. Not even today's, your newer classrooms, because we have a lot of today's classrooms. When people remodel, and if they're building new, the classrooms are just different. The key word is flexibility within that classroom. The second key word is natural light. Those two elements are very successful in allowing students to learn and then teachers to help facilitate that. So with those classrooms, we're not sure what we're going to do with that yet, but it's just the concept of new classrooms. But I would just ask that you pay attention to those two elements, the flexibility and then the natural light. With all of our future learning spaces, no matter how we do it, flexibility and natural light will be key elements as we go through that. Another piece is the gym doors, the blue doors, I think, as they've come to be known. We do have an ADA access, but that person then has to leave their group and go to a different sidewalk and get into our building. That's wrong. We need to have an ADA access right with everybody else. And so that is a piece. That's not a tremendous financial burden, all things considered, but it is something that rose to as a top priority. Inside of the gymnasium, so it's your classic old gymnasium with a stage on the side, and it currently is storage. And it's evolved over the years that if you set one thing down in a school and walk away from it, you wait a month, 2 months, there will be other things set down next to it, and pretty soon it just becomes storage. So what we would like to do is recover that as learning space. And the idea right now is there is no need for the stage. We don't use the stage. When our students have performances, at the middle school, at the younger ages, the 4th and 5th grade, they'll bring the students right up to the bleachers and then put that sound shell behind them. Or we use the high school auditorium. So remove the stage, recover some classroom space, and then maybe have organized storage as opposed to just piles. The outside classroom was removed. That was one of the items that was removed. And the reason being, we have hard surface. We do have a way in which we can still go outside and educate if we need to. The outside classroom, we were hoping to get almost like an outside theater, seating where it's nice and rounded and kids could sit there and we could work at it that way. But it just didn't rise to that immediacy. The infill, if you're looking at that detail map, if you've ever been behind, tucked away in that corner where the students leave to go out or come in from recess, there's 2 terraced levels and there's rocks in them. So you have 2 different piles of rocks next to middle school windows. It's a bad recipe. The idea is to then make that one level, have a railing around it. Now you have a piece of that outdoor classroom if need be. And you can design that so there's flexible learning that can take place. Onto the high school. And the survey came back, and the 2 largest dollar amounts were the overall, but then also the high school specifically. So as I stated earlier, the 2-station gymnasium, and what that means, a 2-station gymnasium, is you're gonna have enough for 2 basketball floors in there. It's just kind of a way to categorize the size of it. That also we applied for as a FEMA structure. So that's phased out. And remember what I said earlier, if awarded, once they set it and say, and I think it's in October when they officially say the money is accessible, I think. That's when that 24-month period starts to tick away. So that's why we wanted to phase out that gymnasium, because if we're successful this summer, and the amount for that would have been, could be $6 million. Now, if the federal government's going to give us $6 million towards one of our facilities, we need to really consider about that. And that's why that was phased out, phase 2. We still should have an opportunity through a future vote to work on that. But if we can, let's just start by walking into the main entrance of the high school and looking at our commons area and our kitchen area. It is, it's absent of natural light. It's one of the major priority items that we determined was, let's somehow get natural light into that commons cafeteria area, because a lot of our students spend a lot of their day walking through there. They eat lunch there. It's also a place where when people come in, we have a lot of our meetings there. So trying to, if you can envision it, there's already a trade ceiling in that commons area. So instead of a tray, maybe there would be some form of windows that would wrap around it to bring in that natural light. But then you also get into the kitchen, and in short, it's the original kitchen, and kitchens, commercial kitchens have improved since 1969. Our equipment is in good shape. We recently applied for a grant, and we have a dishwasher system that's a year old, maybe a little bit more. That's a $64,000 piece of equipment. A lot of our equipment's in good shape, but the way that it's laid out, the way that the wiring is situated, we could do so much more with that space. And we also have recently updated our serving lines, but they're cramped in there because of the walls. And the process with this would be, there are experts that truly design high school kitchens or school kitchens. They'll come in, put a new footprint to it. Another issue we have with our current kitchen area at the high school, and that's our biggest kitchen, and they prepare a lot of food there that can then be transferred to other places if need be. The receiving on the north side is just not functional. It's difficult to get a truck in there. It's difficult to unload. We also have, in some situations, we have a freezer and a cooler inside of that kitchen, and they're original, and they're in trouble. No matter what happens, that bill is coming due soon. that we need to improve those. We also have storage that our food service employees have to walk outside and go to another door to storage and then bring that stuff around into the kitchen. Not so bad on a 60-degree day, but in the middle of winter when it's icy, that's just not, we need to improve that. So that's another piece with that kitchen renovation. If we can, any questions about that part of the high school? New tables. If you've sat there for more than a half hour, you can understand we need new tables and chairs. And that's another thing that the more that we learn, the more that has advanced tremendously. Students enjoy the higher chairs and the higher tables. That's what's comfortable for them. And so that's what we would be looking to put in there. A bunch of coffee shop, bistro style tables. Also wired, so while they're sitting there eating their lunch, they can plug in and recharge if they need to. So if we can, go to the east. And the reason that we're looking at our auditorium entrance is the auditorium is way on that side of the high school. If you go to one of our events, you more than likely parked in the main parking lot. If you weren't 20 minutes early, that means you're quite a distance away. You walk into the building and then you, for the most part, walk the length of the building to get to an auditorium entrance in which you're greeted with a card table to go in with a brochure or with a program. So we will do better. With this, if you're out for a walk, go to that east side. And for those of us here who have been in our community for a while, there is an entrance on that east side. So where the greenhouse is currently, right behind it is an entrance, and it says, "Welcome to the Platteville Auditorium." You can't get in there. You can't park and walk there because it's not open, but it used to be, and I believe it's the 97 edition in which they put classrooms around and made it just obsolete. We would like to improve the drop-off there, so somebody with mobility issues can be dropped off right by that entrance, improve that entrance, and in doing so, make that area a flexible space. If we're having a performance, we should have a ticket booth. We should have a lobby area so people can have discussions before and then afterwards. When the performers come out, there's a place to hand them the bouquet of flowers, just to make it more of a professional approach because of how successful our programs are. And that just, when you're a student and you perform in something like that, it adds a lot to it. In doing that flexible space, that lobby area, when we're in a school day, that can be transformed with a variety of different furniture options. That's now a learning area where students can sit and they can work as teams or they can do other things. So that's another example of those flexible spaces. For performance, within minutes, we now have a lobby. During the school day, learning space. But to do that, you have to recover a classroom to do that. That is why, if you look to the south where it says addition, there's an existing hallway. That addition right now has three classrooms scheduled to go there. 2 of those classrooms are already spoken for. One would be a commercial kitchen, a food science classroom. And it's important to note that the purpose of this with the career and technical education, it is so as a student can get into that classroom. We partner with Southwest Tech already. When they are finished with that classroom, they have experience in a commercial kitchen, They have a variety of ServSafe certificates. They can get into a restaurant and then start off above where you start off bussing tables. They can go in participating and starting their career as a kitchen. So that's different than what I would say a traditional FACE, family and consumer ed classroom, would look like, in which you would have a stove, an oven that you would have in a home setting. This is purposeful for career, and that's very precise as far as the equipment that goes in it. The other classroom would be our agricultural science classroom. And with the future of ag science, a lot of that is in food, the preparation, and that would be a nice pair that if you're in an ag science classroom, you're learning how whatever they're working on, that you can then take it into that commercial kitchen atmosphere and then see how it ends up. So that's a good pairing, especially with the equipment and all of the facilities that need it. That third classroom, it's open, but continually looking ahead, we are trying to respond to the need in healthcare. We have a good partnership with Southwest Health. We have a good partnership with Southwest Tech. We have a good partnership with UW-Platteville. If we have a room designated for that career and that style of education, that would service our students. Up to graduation, but then really have them exposed to that career and know what they would like to do within that career. And the example I love to give, and I think anybody who's been around kids, be thankful when you see a student really discover their passion, but we should also be thankful when a student discovers, I don't want to do this. And it's too bad when they get 2-3 years into their schooling outside of high school and they're like, That's why we need to improve that exposure. That's another tangent. But that's the purpose of those rooms. The greenhouse is just recently less than 2 years old. It comes as a kit. It wouldn't be that difficult to take the greenhouse and put it out front, which I would like to have it out front because I believe that's a showpiece for being in Southwest Wisconsin, to have that out where when people drive by our school and they see that greenhouse. I think that's a good place for it, next to that ag classroom. There is inside of the building, and this is one of the unfortunate pieces that we know today that we just didn't, there's no way, I'm not criticizing who built the building in 1969, I'm not. But we have a lot of inside rooms that there's like a main hub, a large learning space, and there are classrooms off of it. One of those inside rooms it's entitled Room 6. We would like to improve the capability of that room. That would be a complete audiovisual makeover. It is currently terraced with seating similar to a college lecture format. Continue that, and we could host meetings in there for a lot of our student activities. With the AV, we've dabbled with what are some other things. Well, we can bring in experts and do a sort of distance learning class. So if we have a group of students, this is just an example, if we have a group of students that really would like to advance in German, but we do not have a German instructor, we would work with our local CISA, we would find a partner school, those kids would be in that classroom having German. It may be, the teacher might be in Rice Lake, but they would have a top-notch facility to facilitate that. So, I think I've touched on a lot of the interior. To the exterior is the activities complex. And to summarize it, when we're looking at ways to reduce the price, I put it bluntly in that our district needs a new track. We currently do not need a new gymnasium. I also look at it, the amount of impact on different students and on our community. The activities complex is there. That the gymnasium, we did have plans that when we do go to phase 2, there would be a community welcome fitness center. There would be a walking track for our community. Those are still in the plans, but when you look at an entire activities complex, the numbers of our youth that play soccer is extraordinary. Through the city, through Platteville Power. There is also a strong group of adults that have soccer on Saturday nights, sometimes Sunday. We would purposefully partner with the city in order to use these facilities. And let's say a facility like this, the turf field, they say, well, you can get 20 years. I think it would be fantastic if after 15 years we wore that thing down because we used it so much. I truly believe that it will be something that is a draw for our community, is a draw from people outside of our community. This will be not year-round because it snows in Wisconsin, but all those other times, this facility. So to get into it where the current track is, that would be parking. A major concern, I think, from everybody is there's an elevation difference there. How are you going to park down here and get up there? One of the solutions is to, with that plateau, we've completed the soil borings, and we are able to move earth off of the plateau down to the parking area so it isn't as extreme of an elevation difference. Where the current track is, you can fit a 6-lane American-style track. An American-style track, and I'm talking like I'm not an expert, this is what one of our partners walked us through. An American-style track is longer and more narrow, and it's a faster track because you have fewer curves and turns to go around. So if you like fast times, you like that narrow track. The difficulty with where our track is right now, I don't know, but the reason why it was only 6 lanes is because you could only fit 6 lanes. The geography drops off, there's all the drainage coming through there. And so we would like to have an 8-lane track with a 9th sprint lane. So we have currently, we are able to host 1 large track meet per year. And we have to do it on a Saturday and start in the morning. Because the 6 lanes restrict how many people can get through qualifying heats and then get to the finals, but also there aren't lights. So with those things in mind, the track being the need, we can take that track and put it on that plateau to the north of the high school, but it's a European-style track, which is not long and skinny, but short and more rounded. In the way they explained, you actually have, on each corner, you have 3 different curves going around there. That one they had to really spell it out for me. But it's all about the protractor and making it around those corners. Either way, here's a benefit of that. When you have that space, you have now increased your infield so you can fit a soccer field that is what is necessary to play the sport. And right now, I believe it's at 210 feet wide. With a 210 feet wide soccer field, we could host soccer events for our high school kids up till state. We could have regional, sectional, semifinals, and finals all here in town because our soccer field is now, it meets the qualifications of that. So now we have a track, and inside of it we have this regulation soccer field because of that European style. You would also stripe that to have football games there. Inside of the track, let me back up a little bit, you would have your field events inside of that track. So you wouldn't have to go and walk somewhere else to view long jump, triple jump. pole vault, that would all be inside. With the way it's designed, with those bleachers, you would be able to sit there and watch the entire meet and look to the left to watch the high jump, still in the bleachers. And if you had a thrower, discus or shot, that would be down by where the parking lot is. But still, you're able to, nothing's perfect because we have geography pinching us there, but it would increase the enjoyability of our public to come in and watch that track meet. Another benefit would be our marching band. Our marching band currently practices up on that plateau, and it's something that our custodial staff stripes for them, and that's where we practice as well. But if it's ground and you have kids on that, and marching band, football, you play soccer on that all summer, the ground, it's very difficult to make it to where it's not very hard. It just gets beat down. So inside of that, that's why it's turf. And we had that debate at the board level last Wednesday, and we weighed turf or natural grass, and turf won out. So now, to the east of that would be a practice field. That practice field would also be turf. And these are rough numbers, but if you were to build a new practice field, estimate around $400,000, because you're still moving earth, you have to put irrigation in, you have to seed it, and you have to then stay off of it for a year. If you have a turf practice field, the price tag is right immediately, it's $1 million, but you get to use it right away. And with that practice field, what we've seen with other schools, it's ingenious. I never would have thought of it on my own, is the practice field is rectangular. On one corner, you would color the green turf, but you'd color it brown, and it would be the size of a softball infield. The other corner, you would color it brown and make it the size, hopefully, of a baseball infield. So now we're in the spring of the year, and especially this spring, our kids didn't get outside for the longest time. The fields just weren't ready. But if you have this turf field, they can get out there as soon as there isn't snow on it. One of the amazing things about these systems, these turf systems, is their ability to accept water and disperse it. Howard was the one who explained to us in an earlier meeting on campus, the fire truck hose lit it up, and pretty much just where the hose was hitting is where the water was standing. There's a series of baffles or whatever underneath of it that then take that water. So that's another concern we had. We built this complex up there. Where's all the water go? Does it go, because you got to take care of that water. Well, they really manage their own. So back up about 4 or 5 minutes. You have a fall soccer team, 9 through 12. You have a fall football team. So that would be soccer. We currently have 2 levels, JV, varsity. A fall football team, currently JV, varsity. Both of those would like to get freshman teams. You have your marching band. The marching band is right out the back door up on that field, and they're practicing. Then in the spring, you have your track team, which averages 85 to 90 kids. It's about 1/4 of our student body is out for track. You also have spring soccer that would use that. You also have, early on, your softball and baseball. So the high school student impact is there. Add to that, right now, the amount of soccer that we have in our community during the summer. The youth, all the way up to the adults that I mentioned earlier. I really believe that this would be a way for our district to strengthen our bond with the city, make it symbiotic for both parties, but also it gives our school an identity that they don't have right now. And to me, it's hard for me to convey that to somebody who just doesn't live in a school like I have forever. But the example I give is Friday night, home football game. Our kids go out, they take the field, and it's not even their emblem at midfield. And the other teams that are visiting, they like playing there. That's kind of cool. It's a college stadium. Well, why are they more happy? You know, our marching band, same thing. We take buses to home games. I think that erodes our identity and our pride within our school district, especially at the high school level. So the activities complex, I think, would be so impactful for everyone involved. And that's really why it rose to the top when we had to reduce one of those targets. There will be lights, and that's critical. That opens up so much more. So so Platteville Soccer, they will host tournaments, and they're done at dark. They just don't have lights for it. This would open up a lot of opportunities for premier events. I spoke with CISA 3's director, Jamie Nutter. One of the most incredible things we do in Southwest Wisconsin is we have the champion games. Those have been at Boscoville forever, close to Finnemore where CISA 3 is, but Boscoville has a really nice track layout. It's easy to get to. It's good, and they wanted the champion games. And the champion games are for our students, I believe K through 8, that have difficulties learning, have mobility issues. This is a place for them to have a big track meet for a day. And we invite all of CISA 3 to it. It's not we, I don't work at Boscoville anymore, but I used to. I sat with Jamie and I was explaining to him our efforts, and I said, I'm going to push hard. Platteville needs the champion games. We need them here. And then I think of what we've done with the Platteville Inclusive Playground. And what a great draw to our community, to bring people in, to have them come into our community and leave with a great experience, and then maybe they move here someday. Any questions about the high school? I get excited about that, but I'm just trying to convey the potential impact, as opposed to someone would drive by and say, oh, we don't need that.
Is there any charge right now from the university to use the football field, or do they just kind of let the high school use it?
They charge us, and it's minimal.
Okay.
That is not a reason.
Okay.
I can't, if somebody were to argue that, no, it's pretty good.
I was just curious about, yeah.
Yeah, it might be, and I haven't seen the bills, but it might be for a home game on a Friday night, $1,000. That's not a lot. But they also can say, well, we're not doing it. So, and I don't think they will, but there's always that identity piece again.
Yeah, like you said, it's nice to have your own home field at your school.
Yeah, they've been very good partners as far as the football field. Ken?
You've covered a lot of things. How do you intend to convey these things, at least a good portion of them, to the public?
So what we have right now, and thank you, this is a timeline question. Right now, we are still in that scrutiny phase where we proposed a couple of things and now we're refining it. Once we get to that July board meeting, this should really have a clear picture. And then in August, once that is determined, here is the question we're going to ask. That is where the district, with our partners, we prepare a show, a traveling presentation through different media, and I would be back here at the city council between August and November. I will be open to any of our civic organizations, any place where I can go to educate people so when they vote, they know what they're voting for. So that's what that August to November time period is, in which we have that. It's an informational route, so I can hit as many people as I can.
Are you going to give more information on, are you going to give out sheets like these that you?
Yep, they will be part of that. We have to be careful with that, and the reason is we haven't made a final determination. These are still concepts. But once we get to that point, then yes, we can have, if you've been part of others, maybe think back to 15, 16, I believe there were easels and just renderings of here's what it'll look like. What we can also do, and what I'm going to push hard for, is that's nice. I would like some sort of 3D drone, as if you're walking through these buildings and you can see, you can walk up to the activities complex, more of a visual presentation of that. Yes.
If you could get overloaded as far as putting information on a sheet of paper.
Yeah, and what I believe will end up happening is, it'll be, for example, if we're in Neil Wilkins, you'll have, the first page gives you the general, and then each page you go in gives you even more detail as you go through it.
I just want to congratulate you on all the time. I know you didn't do it by yourself, and it was a group effort, and all the information. I have fortunately been able to go through all of those schools, and as you're talking, I could visualize what you're saying. So I totally agree with where you're going with it. Westview does need some air upstairs in the 4th grade. I'm just saying. I don't know if it's the kids or it could do some air up there. Other than that, I'm totally in with you. I unfortunately have to step out.
Okay.
I don't want to be rude, but I am one of those people who probably, if you vote for me, help you next year. So I got to go introduce myself as that. So I appreciate that. Y'all don't start me laughing.
Jim, I have just a couple things. As a hearing challenged person, I'm starting to use my voice whenever possible to when renovations and updates and new things are happening. We talk about being an inclusive community, the disability with hearing challenged people. I hear more and more people telling me they have issues hearing. So I'm glad to see the part where was it in the high school with anything that can be done with technology for sound or anything like that is really beneficial. Now, my other question, is there, with recent events, has the district looked at building security? Are we good? Do we need, is this an appropriate time if we're going to be looking at doing any upgrades at all? I mean, security with our doors, the windows, anything. I don't see and haven't heard anything. If we're good, that's awesome, but it should be promoted. But if there are things that we should be doing as a district, I would like that evaluated. I mean, I would strongly suggest that be evaluated, because I don't know anybody that wouldn't agree to an upgrade if needed, whatever that would look like. And you did mention, was it Neil Wilkins, having the gymnasium a safe, storm shelter or
Yep.
whatever. Do the other 3 buildings have a space like that?
Not that would meet the current FEMA requirements for
Okay.
a flood or a tornado. But to speak to your earlier point, I don't think we'll ever be good. What the district has done is we took full advantage of the DOJ grants, and there's a nice article on Channel 27 in which our community resource officer was interviewed, and it's on our Facebook page. That was a significant move. two pieces. One being, we took advantage of those DOJ grants, and even with the 15-16 referendum, it was about safe and secure entries. So we currently have those. We have alarms on all of our entrances. We also have a immediate response button in each building. And on top of that, we also have our community resource officer. And that's been a very strong relationship. The position has been improved because over the summer, there will be a second member of the police force who will go through that training to be a community resource officer. So when Officer Josh is absent, for example, this year he was on active duty for 4 or 5 months. So now I believe it's Jared, Officer Jared is being trained, Bartels.
Yep.
And he's being trained over the summer, so when Josh has a training, when he's away, or let's say he wants to take a day and have a vacation, we'll have that consistent coverage. So those two things are very important. As far as the overall school safety and security, we have mechanisms in place that help deter. From my point of view, we have the most important piece, which is the ability to respond quickly when something happens. We have it with those immediate notification buttons. We also have it with the CRO in-house. Now, granted, we have 4 campuses, right? But having that there are significant for us.
Isn't it true that you also have, I mean, now, of course, people carry cell phones, but isn't there also a telephone in every classroom now?
There should be.
Yeah, I think there's a,
Yeah.
so, that's a big change from, I mean, I think we did that when I was on the school board yet, and went to the VoIP system, cut the number of lines, but put a telephone in every classroom, so a teacher. Oh, now, of course, now most people would probably just use their cell phone, but nonetheless, I think that was another early on practice to help with security.
Are you good with my answer?
I am. Just one more point with that, because after that terrible thing that happened in Texas, and there's been a lot of discussion. So if there's any way through this process that can be made part of sort of a reassurance to the community that, yeah, we're looking at classrooms, we're looking at sports activities, we're looking at, accessibility, new parking, but it's not that the security is deliberately not been looked at, but you've got these things in place, because just, I think it would be more of a reassurance thing.
Okay, I understand what you're getting at.
Okay.
Do you have, in a related question, do you have cameras at entrances?
Yes.
Yeah, so that.
Ken, you had something? Yes, every classroom has a door that can be locked. Yes. The offices, yeah.
Sorry, Jim, Todd Casper, I wasn't notified that you were coming here today at 4:30. I didn't receive that in my packet. One thing that I'm concerned about is the amount of police calls to, like, the middle school. I had a daughter that was assaulted twice there this last year, as I'm sure you're aware of. What are you doing to take care of the behavioral problems you have there?
So, if you look in one of the charts of the bunch of information I gave you, we've invested heavily in a lot of social and emotional learning. And those are programs and techniques and staff that then work with our students to try and build those capacities and those skills to prevent that from happening, but then also to recover when it does happen. So that has been one area that we've done to help address that.
How's it going? I guess, how's it working out for you?
Well, that's a difficult question. What are the measurements? We've invested in it, we're working on it, we assess it each year, and we trying to improve on it.
Okay.
Anybody else with questions? Otherwise, we
Question,
all
but
have
good,
a.
good presentation, Jim.
Thank you.
Very detailed.
Thank you for the feedback.
Thank you very much. I think this is very helpful. And thank you for providing the timeline and knowing that there will be kind of updates all the time on the 15th of each month, and that'll be good. So I think we say thank you.
Well, and please, if questions arise, you can work through Barb or Adam or however you want to do it.
Okay.
But like I said from the beginning, our goal as a district is to get to that November election. Everybody vote, and they know what they're voting for. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
I have one motion I need, I think. Do I need a motion?
Move to close the
Well, no,
Work
this is
session?
just a motion to adjourn.
Yeah,
There's a little
Yeah,
motion to
Joe-
adjourn, then we'll have to
I have a motion by Nichols,
I'll second.
second by Outs.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, great, thank you.